Well, it's a beautiful day for this. The weather's cooperating, Mike. Who's in the cage?
The monkey's in the cage.
Tripod, kid.
Hey, Mike, don't you need something on your head?
Huh?
Don't you need a fur cap?
My toupee is what I need. How about that?
Borrow my hat.
No high sticks in there now, Mike.
Where's your panache?
Yeah, right. God, I guess it's a...
Okay.
Mike,
Just like the NHL.
Treat on the next to goalie?
If I don't have them, I'll let you know. I've been looking for them. I'm trying to do the like me is like she's going to say, and I don't know.
If you listen, Mike, to all these hockey comments in the background,
Pick it up with Mary's conversation. This guy's popping out.
they'd make good color people for a hockey game.
I'd like to welcome everyone here today, Vermont Academy, for two important reasons. First of all, to dedicate and officially reopen our newly renovated rink facility here. And secondly, to recognize and honor a man who has done so much for Vermont Academy. This present skating facility that we're standing in today became a reality in 1975 when a group of individuals spearheaded by Mike Choukas, Mr. Dick Hinman, who was then a present parent, member of the Board of Trustees, and others who decided to create the leadership to make this facility a reality. I can recall in 1975, in that fall, standing up on the field, coaching football, looking down here and seeing the miles of tubing and wires and yards of concrete that went in to make this pad. I can also recall Warren Chivers walking through all this mess, at least pretending to have some idea of where everything was going. I can also recall Warren trying to explain all that to Mike. I can further recall Mike pretending to understand it. I can also recall in December of 1975 when we dedicated this ice facility. Vermont Academy team, coached by Bill Berry at that time, beat Holderness 2-1. Both goals were scored by a young man from Hingham, Mass, Tommy Halprin. You here today, Tommy? He'll be here. He'll be here for the reception afterwards, I think he said. The original plans for this facility called for a roof and an enclosure. But of course, as quite often happens, financial reality reared its head. And for the next 10 years, we played on this ice with an open rink. That gave Vermont Academy an automatic 2-goal advantage, one for the wind and one for the snow and rain. Finally, in 1983-84, with the special assistance of Don Edwards, class of '55, a serious effort went forth to put a roof on the facility. We gained special leadership support from Bob Johnson, class of '56, Birmingham, Alabama, launched a campaign, the results of which are the roof that's over our heads today. I bring to your attention a special plaque that's mounted to the right of the scoreboard here, and that plaque reads, recognizing the special contributions of Robert M. Johnson, 56, Richard H. Hinman, and the many other alumni and friends who made this facility possible. Mr. Robert Johnson couldn't be with us today. He sent a brief note, part of which I'd like to read. Dear Bob, I regret that I will be unable to attend your December 6th dedication ceremonies involving the hockey rink. A business commitment conflicts and must be attended. I would like to offer my congratulations and thanks to the alumni and friends who allowed this project to get off the ground and to be completed. Bob goes on to say, there is not a lot that can be said about Mike Choukas. And I guess he meant it, Mike, because there's not much on this page here. There's not a lot that can be said about Mike Choukas and for all he has done for Vermont Academy. The dedication of this rink and the enclosure in his name is most appropriate, and Vermont Academy should be proud. We thank Mr. Johnson, we thank Mr. Hinman, and we thank all of you that made this possible. Thank you. As I mentioned, we're also here today to recognize a very special gentleman. A number of us who were working on the campaign for the roof sort of came up almost simultaneously with the idea that here's an excellent opportunity to honor a gentleman who has done so much for the Academy. When we began to get together and meet on this, there was absolutely no opposition to anyone on that committee that said this facility should be named in honor of Mike Choukas. I need not tell you much about Mike here, because if you all got a program and you look on the back of it, we put everything on there from the day he was born right up to the present. So as we say to the kids here quite often, I'm not going to tell you about it, you can read it in black and white. The many, many accomplishments, achievements, and contributions that Mike has made to Vermont Academy. I would like to make two brief comments regarding Mike that are actually observations on my part. The first observation comes to me as a result of my 2 years on the development trails as I was out visiting a lot of alums. Whenever Mike came up in the conversation, which was quite often, the comment that I always heard was that he led this academy through some very difficult times in the late 60s and the early 70s. And indeed he did. It was largely the leadership of Mike Choukas, along with the help of those board members and staff people who were here at the time, that enabled Vermont Academy to weather some of those storms and to remain and to become the institution for which we're all so proud today. A second observation on Mike comes along in a little more personal vein. In each of our lives comes a mentor. A mentor being one who leads and guides us mostly by his or her personal example to realize somewhere in our lives our own potential. I've had the privilege of having two such mentors in my lifetime to date. Mike Choukas was one of those. Mike taught me many things in the time that I worked here with him, not the least of which was how to get mad. Mike could do that better than anyone I've ever seen. Thank you for teaching me that, sir. More importantly, Mike taught me never to forget that Vermont Academy is first and foremost its people. Faculty, the alums, the parents, the friends, and the kids. I've never forgotten that, and I try awfully hard to live by that today. Mike, I, and we thank you very much for that. At this time, I'd like to call on a gentleman who may well have been one of Mike's mentors, former headmaster, Mr. Lawrence Leavitt. Sir?
I'm not going to trust myself over that ice, so I'll hang on to this. It's a real privilege for me to be here today to honor one of my boys. I always refer to any of my students as my boy, and Mike has certainly proved why we're in teaching, as a matter of fact. We reap our dividends later on after being with these boys, and Mike is a perfect example, as far as I'm concerned, of a darn good dividend. Bob Long asked me to say a few words, and I'll try to keep it down because I know you want to watch the hockey game. You might ask me to say a few words about the history of hockey, right? And here at Vermont Academy, so I'll sketch it very briefly. I'm not sure what happened before 1914, actually whether we played hockey or not. But I can document the fact that we played hockey in 1914 because I have a picture. In fact, I've got a copy of it right in my pocket of playing hockey on Bowles Pond in 1914 and 1915. And there were snow banks, but also there was about this much board around the bottom. I mentioned that for a particular reason. Along with that picture of that rink is a picture of the team. And I had the fun of knowing three of the people in that picture. I knew the coach, Clay Keith, because I gave him his first job at Table Academy when I was running a summer school. After he heard that we were coming here, we kept in very close touch, and he loved to talk about the days of Vermont Academy, and especially when he was hockey coach. There were two boys playing at that time. One name you will definitely recognize, and that's Bruce Colton, who was an outstanding hockey player. Some of you know he now is a member of the Athletic Hall of Fame. The other one was Howell Shepard, who became a trustee shortly after we came here and was very, very helpful with us for the first few years that we were here. Now let's jump ahead to 1934-35, our first year here. Bill Dunn, Coach Dunn, as everybody referred to him, was a great advocate of hockey. He wanted a hockey team. So, to have a hockey team, you have to have a place to play. And we played for 4 years on what was known as the Dust Bowl, between the library and what was the gymnasium at that time. No boards, snow banks. Puck was always going over in there. You had to stop the game, find the puck. Once in a while, a fellow would get a board check, so-called board check, and he'd go over into the snow bank, and we had to dig him out before we could get the game going. There was another hindrance there too. There was a steam pipe running from the library to the gym, and that presented a problem. After 2 years, Coach Dunn, with the help of boys, made the boards. So we had boards for 2 years there. Then we moved to the tennis courts. We didn't move to the tennis courts sooner because there were only 2 courts at that time. We had to wait till we got 4 courts before we'd have a big enough area for the hockey. And we were there and playing there until 1955, I believe it was. I want to get a little personal now in connection with the person who's being honored today. In 1943, started what we call the McFadden era. Danny McFadden was a good-known hockey coach, but better known as a pitcher for the Boston Braves. Danny came in here at the same time. I don't know how it happened. The same year he came here, a fellow named Mike Choukas from Hanover came, along with a few other players. And for 3 years there, we probably had the most outstanding teams of the area. Some of the features, let me just look at my notes here. In 1943-44 year, we beat KUA 2-1. Choukas scored the second goal. Highlights was beating KUA the first time in 6 years. And also we won the round robin tournament at Dartmouth. That same time, along with Mike, came some names who we all familiar with later on because they played in college hockey. Fellows like King and Butterfield and Davis and fellows like that. The next year was really the outstanding year. We won 10 games, lost 2, and tied 1. And we played in Boston tournament at that time and won, got second place in the tournament. And that year, Dick Desmond, who later on was our Olympic goalie, came along with some fellows who later on all played together at Dartmouth. Billy Dow, Dick Haskell, Howie Smith, and so forth. The next year, this boy who'd come from Hanover was elected captain. Another good season, but there's 7 wins, 3 lost, and 1 tie. Let me read you something here. The highlight, beat KUA 4-3, the only loss that they had for the year. Mike Choukas, hat trick. Quote, severely hurt check at the close of the second period. He returned in one piece to slam home the winning point.
All right, Mike. All right.
The last game of the season, Deerfield 5, Vermont Academy 6, Mike Choukas hat trick. The first time we'd beaten Deerfield in hockey. Now we jumped from the year Mike came here to coach and did coach. We moved to the field up here on Fuller, and he was there until we moved up here. Now I've been reciting some of the exploits of Mike, and probably because of that reason alone, it could have been a hockey rink named for him. But I want to second what Bob Long has already said, that as far as I'm concerned, the trustees, of course, have to make it official, did a wonderful job in dedicating this rink to Mike. The man, along with his wife Nita, for over 25 years, or over 20 years anyway, were bulwarks of the Academy, and especially during that time that Mr. Long has referred to. So, congratulations, Mike, from one of your headmasters to one of his boys. It gives me a lot of pleasure to be here today to recognize you.
Thank you, sir. No facility is complete without a sign. And we have such a sign that will, after this ceremony, be mounted on the south wall over here of the rink. And Peter Riegerman helped me to unveil this sign. It is indeed our pleasure to officially dedicate this facility to Michael Choukas Jr.
first of all, thank you all so very much for coming here and sharing what is obviously a very special day for me and my family, but also a very special day for Vermont Academy and its hockey program. I really appreciate this crowd. I was listening to Larry Leavitt talk about some goals I scored, and I couldn't help but think at the time that there's a much bigger crowd here today hearing that than there was when the game was going on. I do want to just say a couple of things. As you heard Larry say, I have had the opportunity to serve the Academy over a long time and have been with the hockey program a long time. And I really think of this facility as a tribute to the coaches that preceded me and succeeded me, and to all the players who spent so many hours flooding. There are a lot of them right here, and they know just exactly what I'm talking about. It's really a tribute to everyone that hung in there and kept our hockey program alive while school after school was getting and developing its own ice facilities. So I like to think of this that way. And I do want to just mention a couple of names in full realization that there are so many more that I could mention and that I just don't have the time to. But first of all, you heard Bob Long say that probably Larry Leavitt was a mentor of mine. Now, let me erase that probably. He has meant so much to me in my life. Last night at a little affair in Hanover, my son was introducing Larry Leavitt, and he said he made a mistake of admitting my father as a student, and then he compounded it by bringing him back on the faculty. But I'll tell you, mistake or not, it certainly has meant everything in my life, and I owe so much to Larry. When I think about the hockey program itself and all those years working on the rink, which was right down here on the playing field on the other side of the gym, any of you who have been connected with outdoor ice understand the problems. But there are two people in particular that I think of who helped so much. One is the late Woody Rice, class of 37 at Vermont Academy, who was the superintendent of grounds and who worked so hard all the time on what was for him, as it was for me, a real labor of love in keeping that rink going. And the other was Traff Hicks, who lived across the river in Walpole, still does, and Traff, I know, is here this afternoon. Traff had 4 sons who went to Vermont Academy, and he came to my rescue time after time. He's a machine toolist. He would come over with his snowplow. He'd come over with a new ice planer he had just developed, and he and I worked very closely, and I thank him, and I think of him and Woody together. I also think of the faculty who helped so much on the rink and all of the flooding. It just seemed inevitable that when the students were off on vacation, the cold weather would come and we would have lost all of our slave power. And I would have to turn to the faculty and some of the day students in town for night shifts. And John Lucy was always helpful in helping out with that. And Gus Black, too, and Jack Peters, another that they used to help out. And this is the first time I've really had a chance to thank them, so I just want to do that. Got to mention Warren Chivers also, since his name came up in connection with the pipes here. Warren and I had what was usually a friendly rivalry over the winter sports scene. And I can remember some years in the late 50s when there was very, very little snow. We were just having one drought after another. And you need snow to begin a rink. at the beginning of the season. You have to pack the base with it. And Warren and I, on our own, believe me, would go out and we were scanning the woods for snow. He to pack his ski jump and me to pack my rink. And we knew there wasn't enough snow to do both of those. We never had a head-on collision on these back roads around here. I never knew where he went, and he never knew where I went, but we both found our snow. And I'm remembering that. Back to the beginning of this facility in 1975, when the outdoor artificial ice was made. I want to just say a special thanks to Dick Hinman, who was on the Board of Trustees at that time, whose leadership as a donor, as a fundraiser, and in the really most important part of all, convincing the Board of Trustees that the school indeed ought to put this kind of money into a rink was what made it happen. And Dick deserves so much praise for that. Another person at the time that was helping was Larry Calvert, who did a great deal. So I think of those two people as prime movers in our getting the first phase of this rink, and Don Edwards and Bob Johnson as prime movers in getting this nice facility here. I just need to check these for a second. Okay, I think I've pretty much said what I wanted to say about that. And it's probably time for me to shut up and let this do what it's supposed to be doing here, which is be over a hockey game going on. So I thank you again all for coming.
We will in just a minute begin a game with the alums in the white and some of our JVs in the black here. And while that's going on, and through the varsity game, which will begin at 3, there will be an open house reception down in the lounge area here. And AJ Wright. AJ O'Brien is our varsity hockey coach here. He will be officiating this game today prior to coaching his own game. He'll keep his head straight. We have a special puck to start the game today. It says Michael Choukas Jr. Skating Facility Dedication, December 6, 1986. We'll do the face-off with this and then let Mike have that and put it on his desk. AJ, thank you very much for coming.